Hello, we are back again for section 10.5. So I'm going to start presenting your notes. And 10.5 is about applying other angle relationships in circles. All right, so if a tangent and a chord, so if a tangent and a chord intersect at a point on a circle, so they intersect at A, then the measure of each angle formed is 1/2 the measure of its intercepted arc. And all that means, and again, the arc is always bigger. This is similar to 10.4. So this angle right here created by both this chord and this tangent, which is angle 1, is going to be half as big as its intercepted arc B from B to A. So then that means the measure of angle 1 is equal to the arc of AB divided by 2. And you could think about it as the other way. You could say 2 times angle 1 is equal to the arc of AB. That's the other way to think of that. So, and same thing with the other angle. So there's still this chord that meets this tangent that goes the other way. So this angle right here, angle 2, is going to be half as big as its arc. So the arc goes from, it's a major arc from B through C to A. So it's half, measure of angle 2 is the major arc B, C, D divided by 2. And again, you could think of it as 2 times angle 2 is equal to the major arc of B, C, D. So it's kind of similar to where it's either half as big or twice as big to 10.4, but this is talking about the chord where it intercepts the tangent. This angle right here has a relationship with its arc on the circle. So if we were going to use that, we wanted to find the measure of angle 1. Angle 1 is right here. Its arc, its corresponding arc, is from B to A. It is a minor arc, less than 180. So if I wanted to find the measure of angle 1, the arc is always bigger. So I would take 132 and divide it by 2. Let me see, that's 50 plus 16, that's going to be 76. Let me double check. You guys know that my mental math sometimes is not that great. So it is 66 degrees. All right. So now if I want to find the arc, the major arc of EFD, that means it starts at E, goes through F, ends at D. That means I'm looking at the angle with the chord and the part of the tangent that goes this way. So this angle right here, that's saying it's 110 degrees. So if I want to find that angle, that means I'm going to take 110 and divide it by 2. Nope. The arc is always bigger, not divide by 2. I'm going to multiply by 2 to make it bigger to 210. So the major arc of DFE or EFD is 220 degrees. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So this one is going to be Theorem 10.12. If 2 chords intersect, so these 2 chords, they don't have to be the diameter. So if 2 chords intersect inside the circle, then the measure of each angle is 1/2 the sum of the measures of the intercepted arcs. All that means is that this angle right here, angle 1, you can find that measure by taking its intercepted arc and its opposite angles arc by taking the average. So the measure of that angle 1 right there is arc DC plus arc, it's a vertical angles arc, A, B, and dividing it by 2. Same thing with angle 2. So angle 2 is right here. So that means I can take the measure of arc BC and its opposite angles, its vertical angles corresponding arc, and then find the average of those 2 arcs, and that would give me the angle. So angle, for this one, it would be arc BC plus arc AD divided by 2. Okay. So this one I like to think of that we are adding, we're finding the average. So if I were to say like this right here, these two lines cross inside the circle, so it kind of crosses to kind of make a plus sign. So you want to remember that when the chord inside the circle, you'll be adding those corresponding arcs and dividing by 2. It's going to be a little bit different for the next theorem that we're about to learn. So the next theorem is where we have an angle. So if a tangent and a secant, so here's my tangent and here is my secant, or two tangents, or a secant and a secant, intersect outside the circle, so they intersect at right here. Then the measure of the angle, this angle right here, is 1/2 the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs. Now, all this means is, here, let me go back and explain what that means. So if I have this measure of angle 1, I can find it by taking the outer arc, the difference means subtract, minus the inner arc. So it would be arc BC minus, so the outer arc minus that inner arc, so minus AC, arc AC, and dividing it by 2. So again, this one is different because we have the subtraction, and all three of these cases are going to be the subtraction. So notice that in this circle, when you have a secant, the only parts of the arc is this and then this entire. This piece of here is not being used inside it, so we wouldn't use that. So, and then this one, it's the outer, so major arc of PQR minus the inner arc PR divided by 2. And since this is a tangent and a tangent, you do use the entire circle, so that might be helpful in finding out the measures of these arcs. And a secant and a secant, again, it's still going to be outer minus inner divided by 2 is going to be equal to that angle 3 right there. And then since this is secant, we will not be using this piece or this piece of that circle. So again, so this is, I kind of like to think about it as Pac-Man. Pac-Man is eating away at this circle. So if it's eating away, that means it's subtracting. Here is my Pac-Man, and it's eating that. So if it's eating, it's taking it away. Again, here is my Pac-Man, and he is eating away, so then it's subtraction. So the other one was two chords intersecting, and I kind of wanted to think of that as if they're inside, they're making a cross, they're kind of making that addition cross sign, even though it doesn't look like it too much. Find the measure. So in this one, I have two chords right here. So they're inside. So to me, that thinks of that plus sign. They cross like a plus sign. So if I wanted to find the measure of this angle right here, that means I would take its arc and its vertical angle's arc, and then I would find the average of them, which means that I'm going to take that arc one for, so X, the angle X is equal to its arc, 140, plus its vertical angle's arc, 112, and divided by 2. In this one, we are simplifying, so we're just plugging in all on the left side, 140 plus 112, divided by 2. So then that would be 252 divided by 2, so X is equal to 126 degrees in that angle. So this is an example where we had two chords intersect. This one is a secant and a tangent. So either way, here is my Pac-Man. It's eating away at this red dot. So I'm going to think as Pac-Man eating away, that means subtract. So that means I'm going to, this angle X is equal to the outer arc, 170, minus the inner arc, 72, divided by 2. 170 minus 72 divided by 2 is going to give me, so x is equal to 98 divided by 2. That means x is equal to 49 degrees, which is that angle. So I have a few more problems from the textbook, so you can see more examples being worked out from this section, just in case one example per theorem is not enough. So in the first one, let's blacken these out. If I want to find the arc of AB is right here, and its corresponding angle is this chord and this tangent. So this angle is 65 degrees. So if I want to find its corresponding arc, you take 65 and double it. The arc is always bigger. So we'll get 10, 12, 130 degrees, which is the correct measure for that one. This one, I want to find the major arc of DEF. So in this one, I'm given this chord and this tangent is where they intersect, and this angle is 117 degrees. So if I want to find the arc, that means the arc is always bigger. 117 times 2, making it bigger for the arc. It's going to be 14 to 3, 234 degrees. And that is the major arc DEF. So if I want to find the measure of angle 1, now this is the opposite of these two. So angle 1 is this chord with this with this piece of the tangent. So that means that this arc goes with that angle. So if I know the arc is always bigger, so I'm going to take half of the arc to be 130 degrees for this angle 1. And it is true. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I think you saw it on the screen. Okay, so finding the measures of x. Okay, so these, I see this cross, the two chords cross, which makes me think kind of like an addition sign. So I'm going to be taking the average of the arcs. So I am finding x, this angle right here. So I take its arc and I'm adding it to this arc, 85, and then finding the average of it. So 145 plus 85 is 230. And I'm going to take half of that, which leaves me with 115 degrees. Okay, now this one is a little bit different. Notice that the arc X and the arc 45 are here. And then I'm given this angle. But this angle goes with this arc and this arc, so I can't use this angle measure. So you got to be careful with those problems where you see that the angle is not with its chords. We need an angle here or here. Good thing is we know linear pair. This line right here and these two angles are 180 degrees. So I can find this angle in here by taking 180 minus 122.5, which is 57.5. So now I do have the angle with its arc and its vertical angles arc. So this, I just needed to use linear pair. So then again, the angle now has a value. It's 57.5. The angle is equal to its arc plus its vertical angles arc divided by 2. In this case, I'm solving for x. So the first thing to do is multiply both sides by 2. So don't distribute. That 2 on this side is there to cancel out. So 57 times 57.5 times 2 is 115 is equal to x plus 45. So then I would subtract the 45 from both sides. Minus 45 gives me 70 degrees. Okay. A couple more examples, and they're going to be like example 3. And in this case, I see my Pac-Man eating away that dot. So I know it's eating away at it. That means it's going to be taking away. So I'm going to say that this angle X is equal to the outer arc, 247, minus the inner arc. Notice that this is a tangent with a tangent, which means I will be using the whole entire circle. So they didn't give me the inner arc value, but I know that I'm using the entire circle, and this piece is 247. So 360 minus the 247 gives me that remaining arc of PR. So 360 minus 247 is 113 degrees for that inner arc. So 247 minus 113, and subtracting because we're taking away, that's the difference, and divide by 2. So 247 minus 113 is 134. Divide by 2 is 67 degrees for this angle right here. Now this one I have a tangent with a secant. So I know that the angle is 29 degrees. So the angle is equal to the outer arc, 114, minus the inner arc, which is X, divided by 2. So again, I'll be solving for this X. So multiply by 2 is the first step to cancel out that denominator. 29 times 2 is 58. Is equal to 114 minus X. So next step is to subtract 114, and it's going to give me a negative number, which is okay because I have this negative X on the side. So 58 minus 114 is negative 56, is equal to negative X. Divide both sides by 1 or multiply both sides by negative 1. Multiply both sides by negative 1 or divide both sides by negative 1. And X is equal to 56. And that's it. Okay, so that concludes 10.5. If you guys have questions when you're doing these two sections, please don't hesitate to email me. This week, you're only doing completion checks, so I'll do it on Google Form and I'll set the worksheets up. So it's only completion checks. And then the following week, we're going to also do 2 completion checks on 10.6 and 10.7. Then the third week after that, that's when we'll do the 10.4 through 10.7 quiz and a review for your chapter 10 test that following week. Now, I know you have lots of questions about why I'm extending it to May 22nd when the closure is ending. I think it's what, May 6th, 7th, 8th. I'm just preparing ahead. So make sure we get those assignments done. We will be looking at remote learning plus what we did before spring break, and that's going to determine whether you are going to get a grade or no grade. So, all right, peace. Email me with questions.